Hello, welcome back, guys. It's been a long time. The Premier League had a little bit of an international break. I hope you enjoyed the time off. I've been watching a little bit of the Under-17s World Cup. I'd recommend you guys go and check that out as well. Been having a great time scouting those future wonder kids that hopefully one day will play for Manchester United. Today we're going to be taking a look at Raphael Varane and Casemiro and whether their futures are kind of at the end of the time at Manchester United. There's a lot of reports going around that Saudi clubs will bid in January for both Raphael Varane and, of course, Casemiro. Heavy links as well with Raphael Varane moving to Bayern Munich, who've been looking for an older centre-back to kind of supplement their young defensive line. Matthijs de Ligt, of course, Upamecano, Kim Min-jae, but they need some experience there. Of course, we'll be talking about the Premier League fixtures this weekend. There's some absolute corkers. I'm a little bit annoyed that the Manchester City-Liverpool game is at 12:30. I don't know what you guys think in the chat, but let me know. It's a little bit too early for a game featuring two of the best teams in the league. I was hoping that they put it a little bit later, like a 4 o'clock on Sunday, or 4:30 would be absolutely fantastic. But let's dive into it straight away. Let's talk about the topic of conversation. Of course, that being Casemiro and Raphael Varane. Before we actually dive into the chat, what should Manchester United do? Is it time to get rid of them both? Is it time to sell? Is their time up? We've first got to, view them as players. Both of them superb careers at Real Madrid. Part of one of the greatest teams of all time. That side that won 3 Champions League trophies back to back will go down in history. And both Raphael Varane as a centre-half and Casemiro as the defensive midfielder in their 3, some of the best players on the planet. And I think when you look at someone like Raphael Varane, his game was he was a cover defender. You had Sergio Ramos being more aggressive, attacking the ball. Varane would cover the channels superbly well, work out to the fullback and help them in those positions. Was never regarded as a great ball player, but an unbelievable athlete, had great anticipation to read the game and step in, and was good 1v1 in the tackle. Moving to Casemiro, of course, Casemiro has got a special part of my heart. One of the best defensive midfielders we've ever seen in European football. His aggression, his ability to win the ball back and simply shift it to his teammates. But I think the kind of concern, obviously, that Manchester United fans had when the two players joined the club were, why are Real Madrid selling these two players? Obviously, Sir Alex Ferguson, the greatest manager of all time, we've got his book just over here, Leading. He always said, never buy players from Bayern Munich, Real Madrid, PSG, Barcelona, because there's a reason why those teams are selling those players. And I feel Man United have stumbled into that as a bit of an issue. Casemiro, of course, last season was absolutely brilliant. But the concern was signing a player for, such high wages, high transfer fee that was 30 years old. That was the concern. Defensive midfielders, attacking midfielders, basically every player in football can have drop-offs. And, when you hit 30, that's sometimes where players drop off. Of course, there's many examples of players staying at the top level, but I'd argue that that's a small percentage versus the population of players. So signing Casemiro and Raphael Varane, a player that was basically so quick he get himself out of any defensive situation. He won the Champions League at like 22, 23, 24. That was when he was so dominant. Obviously, knee injuries have hampered his pace, have hampered his ability to recover. So I think for Manchester United, if we're looking at it from a real objective perspective, both signings weren't great. They were to get Man United back right now. There were signings that were supposedly turn Manchester United right now into title challengers. When you could argue that City, that Liverpool have kind of spent a bit of time, growing those teams and growing those squads. I think the other big thing as well in defensive midfield, it's such a key position at the moment. Hence why Caicedo went for over 100 million. Declan Rice went for over 100 million. They're so important in possession that, you probably want a young player that you can keep at the football club for a while. It's really tough because, again, both of these players have been, in my lifetime, some of the greatest players in their position. But does it work for Manchester United right now? Is it time for Manchester United to move on? I think that is the question we kind of got to discuss in a sec. Just jumping into the chat. Ruben is blaming Ten Hag. I think that would be a little bit harsh considering the craziness in the background that we're seeing. Are they not the best in their positions at the club? I think that the thing that I would always think about when developing a side to compete with the best is having players, again, I've said this many times, having players of a similar age bracket so you can improve together and you can grow together. Mikel Arteta's Arsenal is the number one example right now in the Premier League. That's not the first time that that's happened. So I do think that there's an issue there for Manchester United. You could also argue with Erik Ten Hag's team selections this season that they aren't number one choice. And surely that means that if the long-term project is with Erik Ten Hag, those players need to be moved on. We'll talk about Todibo in a second, but I think first and foremost, the two players, should Manchester United sell in January? Yes, if the money's right. I think that's the big thing. If Saudi Arabia comes in with £50 million for Casemiro or £30 million for Raphael Varane, or even less than that, even maybe £30 million for Casemiro, £20 million for Raphael Varane, that is an important step forward for United. United do need the money to spend in January. United have got a lot of problem positions that they need to fix, again, with all that spending. So I think if the bid is right, Manchester United 100% should sell Casemiro and Raphael Varane. Both been decent servants of the club. Of course, Casa was fantastic last season, but it is about Manchester United moving themselves on into the next generation. The next generation of talent for United. We're talking players like Kobe Mainoo because the talent is there. The ability is there. That is really exciting for Manchester United. United do need to go into the market and replace Casemiro if they let him go, just from a pure numbers, bodies perspective. United don't have, any dedicated holding midfielders. Of course, the simple option is to go to Brazil and sign Andre. This is a number one tap-in. Whichever team Andre goes to in the Premier League or in European football, they've just got a player that's instantly going to be very, very, very good at high quality, defensively, offensively, in possession, carrying everything. Simple signing. United sell Casemiro, buy Andre. You could probably get enough from a Saudi club to pay for that Andre fee. It should be a like-for-like, in and out, and you've got Andre in there. And now you've got a player that can control the tempo, a player that's won the Copa Libertadores, a player that's got immense quality. Looking at Raphael Varane, it's a little tougher. Obviously, United need to be building themselves up as a team that plays out from the back, and that has kind of been the big concern for Raphael Varane. And last season in the Premier League, if we jump into having a little look at some data from Raphael Varane. So this is Raphael Varane's scout report from the Premier League in the 22-23 season. So for me, a centre-half for Erik Ten Hag has to be a very, very good ball player. Think about the players that he's had at Ajax. They've all been superb technicians. Jurrien Timber, Lisandro Martinez. We know how good these guys are in possession of the football, and hence why they play for Manchester United and Arsenal. But actually, if we look at the possession stuff from Raphael Varane from last season. So this is the 22-23 season. From last season, we go down to passing. There's some numbers here that are very disappointing, to a sense of Raphael Varane completed around 3 progressive passes per 90 in the Premier League, ranking himself in the bottom 44%. You compare that to Laporte last season, who was the best at 7.7 per game. He's nearly 3 timesing what Raphael Varane is doing. Passes into the final third as well in the 63rd percentile. It's the bottom 63rd in a sense. It's, you're not getting to that high reach. And when you do look at other players that United have got and United have played within those, or Erik Ten Hag, has played, they're always at the top of these things. They really are. And if, for example, I think Lisandro Martinez, could have been, should have been better last season. And that is super critical. But, you compare his numbers to his Ajax days, and there is a slight drop off in terms of his progressive passing. So we look at a per 90 average. At Ajax, he's on 9.86 per 90 in his last season at Ajax. First season at United, 3.73. Of course, it's improved to 6.19 this season, but that's a lack of minutes. We've not seen, that kind of equal out or regress to its mean, as we do know with numbers. But that's a ball-playing centre-back, right? 9.86. And remember, Raphael Varane was less than 3 per 90. That's the problem, and that's why Raphael Varane probably needs to be moved on. I think from Casemiro's perspective, Casemiro's so dominant. Last season was brilliant when it came to winning the ball back, when it came to pressure, controlling the tempo. Very, very good. The issue that you found with Casemiro is kind of it. Again, you're looking at the defensive numbers. So let's take a look at some defensive numbers and have a little chat. So, just the domestic leagues. Let's jump over to that. So last season, Casemiro won 52.2% of his tackles versus dribblers. This season, that's dropped down to 44%. Massive regression there. If we look at the numbers per 90, Casemiro's winning the ball back through tackles and interceptions 5.21 times. This season, 3.61. So the tackle success rate is dropping down. The actions that he's doing is dropping down. Look at his tackle numbers. He's gone from 3.77 to 2.92. There's issues there. And when you take a look at the amount of times he's been dribbled past this season, 15 times already this year, in around 790s. Last season, he was only dribbled around 44 times. So 15 to 44, like that, if we extrapolate those numbers over the season, there's a jump up there. These are all negative numbers. And that's something that we can all see on the pitch. The amount of times that we've seen Casemiro this season. And again, the system was a little bit of a mess at the start of the year. We saw him completely alone dealing with this. And last season, he was winning, 52% of his tackles in these areas. So 1 and 2 was good. This season, that's, of course, dropping down to 44%. So, you've got issues there. Nearly, 2 of every 3 dribbles he's facing, he's losing, and he's getting done, which again opens up United to their weak base, and there's issues there. So I think with United, they need to move on from both players. I think at centre half, looking, we've spoke about a few centre backs. I think if you want to go Premier League ready right now, Jared Brathwaite from Everton would be a fantastic signing. Super fast, super aggressive in the duels, a good ball player, which is what we saw last season with PSV Eindhoven. But those duel numbers are really good for the Premier League. 60% of his duels won, 59% of his ground duels, 60% of his aerial duels. That's great numbers. And I think if we take a look at his last season in the Eredivisie in terms of, looking at the more, the passing side of the game, 91% in his own half, 87% overall. The decent numbers, and he's got real big potential, Jared Brathwaite. But also, you're looking at the simple one in January. This should be a signing that just goes through. Todibo from Nice, obviously with the takeover and so forth. This kid's got it. Very, very good 1v1. Very, very good 1v1. And I like that. And I think that you could build on his passing. I think there's definitely a part of his passing game that could be evolved and could grow. But I think there's some good raw materials there. I really do. And there's some good raw materials of a player that's got quality. And Ten Hag's improved centre halves, but interesting. Let's sort of move on from that. So Casemiro, Raphael Varane, it's probably time, if the bids are correct in January, to let those 2 guys go. Allow the likes of Kobe Mainoo to get more minutes this season. See if you can pick up Andre from Fluminense. And then, of course, at centre-half, there is work to be done there in January. Hopefully, Lisandro will be back very, very soon. Matt had in the chat, I'd rather see both Varane and Casemiro to stay and their successors to come in January, learn from them and displace them in the summer. Todibo and Andre. I like that. I think the only issue, obviously, with United is just the money. I mean, that's the big problem, Matt. I'd like to do that as well. That would be nice. Also coming in from Ben, Mainoo showed in pre-season he can play as a single pivot, play with McTominay and Mount on the side, Bruno in front. I like that. Matt K in the chat, wing-back in the 6, who's the Casemiro replacement? Onana from Everton, really like him. I think Onana's got good raw materials. I think when you look at what you'd want from a defender in that position, recycles the ball well, dominates in the duels. Onana's got all of those qualities. I think there is some still development there. Positionally, I think you've definitely got to do some work in terms of how he moves around and how he reads the play. Again, he's a player that's quite aggressive, 2.5 tackles per game compared to just 0.5 interceptions per game. Holding midfielder, he's going to have to be a little less aggressive in those moments and more sit and hold his position and recycle the play. But I do like him. I think one of the other players that I think United should have bought and again didn't do Really, really simple. This is a signing that United could have got on a free transfer. They could have got in Boubacar Kamara from Marseille, top quality holding midfielder. Very, very simple in possession. Good reads the play well, moves well. It's another banana skin for Manchester United. Could have got him on a free transfer, which is pretty big. Radu in the chat, glad to see you back. Thank you. We are actually in a new place, guys. We're in a new place, and hopefully there'll be some improvements coming our way. Fingers crossed. You never know with this world. It's a crazy world out there. Would rather Fofana from Monaco than Andre. I just think the ball-playing side of Andre is levels above the players we've looked at. So, Onana and Boubacar Kamara's very good ball player, but I think Andre's levels above that, to be quite honest. I just think he's so good in possession. Fofana is an interesting one. He's obviously kind of a player that's still learning his trade and developing and so forth. I think the one thing with Fofana that I've never been like super impressed with him. It's always been his partner at Monaco, and maybe that's a really good compliment. Maybe that's a really good compliment for a player, in terms of a holding midfielder. When you play a holding midfield, that your teammates getting the plaudits. In this game against Metz, playing next to Mohamed Kamara, I just feel like he's a player that kind of just gets things done and ticks over. Again, my priority list would be Andre number one over any of these guys, but I think he's got good quality, and obviously Ineos know the French league. They know the quality that he could bring in defensive midfield, and that's what United would need to do. They could never let Casemiro go and just sit there without having a replacement. Tom in the chat, have you got the bunk beds assembled yet? They are very assembled. They've had some good workouts so far, and it's great to be back on the top bunk. Great to be back. Really important. Mahad, I just want ballers above anything else. Players that can play. Quickest to see the improvement in style, absolutely. Quick question, is Andre plus Amadou Onana Andre Onana? That is quality, isn't it? That would be sick if that was our team. Zubamendi is another one that's I think is a very, very good ball player. From Real Sociedad, holding midfielder. In a way, he's someone that would really suit Arsenal. That's kind of how I see him in defensive midfield. Obviously, Sociedad are playing some of the best football in the Champions League this season. They are really playing some nice stuff. Holding midfielder, really controls the tempo, good passer of the football, decent in his duels as well. And he has got that kind of build. I think the big thing is having someone like him would be getting that Rodri frame, if that makes sense. Out of this world, how Rodri was very, very skinny at Atletico Madrid and at Manchester City is an absolute beast. But that's what United would have to do for a Zubamendi, Matt. So, good quality, potential. But has he got the potential of Rodri? I don't know. Rodri was unbelievable. Isn't it too soon to say that Amrabat's unfitting? Absolutely. I find that perplexing. Sofran Amrabat has played 135 minutes in defensive midfield in the Premier League for Manchester United. I think he's a good player. But I've said that about a load of players that have failed at United. And that is the real frustrating thing for me at the moment, is kind of players that we've looked at, analysed, assessed, that would fit into certain areas of the Man United team. And they haven't even had a chance playing there. The whole analysis that we did on Mason Mount is a great example of that. Mason Mount is an inside right player. This is where he is so dominant inside right in that half space. We have just not seen him there. He's played on the left side. It's a big frustration because United could easily build that shape. Diogo Dalot high, Mount inside. It hasn't happened. But that's similar to Sofran Amrabat. He's not played defensive midfield for United. So, again, I understand in training, you might not be up to a level in training, but at the same time, it doesn't make sense to spend money on Amrabat and Mason Mount and just simply not play them. It doesn't make any sense. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. And that's something that United need to be, or Erik ten Hag needs to be a lot better at. He really does. It's been poor. Him buying players and then, not playing them is an issue, because why sign off Mason Mount? Why sign off Amrabat? And we don't know in the background the fitness issues that these guys have got, and that obviously comes down from the training that Man United done recently that's been not good enough. But hey, frustrating. Thoughts on Rashford's form, Dave? Would give minutes to Garnacho and watch him grow. I think Garnacho needs to play. I think, without talking about Mason Mount, I think Alejandro Garnacho has to be in the starting 11. I think his talent is unbelievable. I want to see him play all across the line, 10, forward, left, right. I want to see him as a striker. This kid has got big potential as well, similar to Kobe Mainoo in midfield. So, grow these players. It feels at the moment that, kind of Man United are basically, they have to play all the players that make the difference right now. Hence why we're seeing, the likes of Scott McTominay in the team. It's because he's just scoring goals at the moment. And we're a moment team again versus a team of ball players. And that's where we are right now. But Garnacho just needs to play. He really does. And I really want to see him on the right wing. I've said this so many times. I want to see him on the right wing for United. I like Marcus Rashford out there. I think he showed some really good stuff. Actually, in the game last time out, which was Luton Town, I believe. It's weird how time absolutely flies. So Luton, I thought he played really well, to be honest. Rashford, in terms of the link with the inside forward, was good. Not the same level. Obviously, missed that big chance as well, which is super frustrating for him. And I think that is the issue of Rashford right now. He's just not taking the chances that he would have put away last season, and it comes from a confidence perspective. It comes from, just a lack of form at the moment. But if you get someone like Rashford in form, you start winning games. And at the moment, United are just kind of in a bit of a mixed spot in terms of the form, in terms of how they played. So it's going to be tough. We'll talk about Man United a little bit later on when we discuss the game against Everton. It's going to be a big game, that. Everton, of course, if you missed the news over the international break, Everton deducted 10 points for breaches in financial fair play. Pretty incredible scenes. They obviously it was a problem with their spending, but when you consider that the team that's currently sits top of the Premier League has an alleged 115 breaches of FFP, you start to question the world. You really do. You really start to question the world, and it is a bit of a weird one, and I really empathise for Everton fans, I really do. But these rules are in place so clubs don't go bankrupt. So I think it's super important to remember that. But also so clubs don't cheat, and that is what some clubs are doing in the Premier League. We're at the top of the league again. Moving on to that club, let's kick off the Premier League preview discussion with a big game. It's going to be good. You know what? This one I'm excited for. It is 12:30, and as I mentioned before, not a great time for such a big game in the Premier League. It's a little annoying, that. But at the same time, it should be an absolute corker. And City have kind of changed, evolved this season. They are a side that has spent a lot of money to move their team on, to get to the next level. And there's some super exciting talent on show for Manchester City. And I think when you're looking at how they've kind of grown to the team that they are right now without Kevin De Bruyne, it is really interesting. So City this season, of course, defending kind of 4-4-2. There's been a few different iterations of their shape, which I think is super interesting in terms of, they've had one shape, which would be Alvarez tucking inside, Doku holding the width, Foden coming inside, and Kyle Walker playing high. Giving Kyle Walker that natural attacking wing-back, kind of Spurs Kyle Walker. But we saw in the big game against Manchester United that City kind of went a little bit more traditional with Bernardo Silva operating high and having a lot of combination play with Jack Grealish. And I think those two are going to be vitally important for this match. We've also seen Akanji move into central midfield in possession, two fullbacks tuck in with this shape. Liverpool, on the other hand, have been one of the best teams in the league this season. They really have. They've gone massively under the radar in terms of their evolution from what they were to where they're growing to. Josh, I don't get it by it's 12:30. Me neither. Fantasy captain from Tom, Haaland or Salah? Right now, Tom, I'm going to go with Haaland. We'll have a look at my fantasy team in a little bit. I've made some pretty big changes this week, Tom, so stay tuned to that. KSI, Shaw's got to play centre-back for me. Absolutely. I think Luke Shaw is a better centre-back than he is full-back. I really do. I think he's got great quality in that position. Kept Erling Haaland at bay, didn't he, in one of the Premier League games. But in terms of Liverpool, of course, it will probably be the Cody Gakpo through the middle. When we're looking at the Liverpool team, obviously, taking into consideration that they've had players that have travelled quite far. Luis Diaz, of course, played for Colombia. That was a lovely moment with his father in the stand and crying. And, it was a lovely, lovely moment. But it will likely to be Darwin Núñez and, of course, Luis Diaz off the bench versus starting in this match. And I think the interesting kind of side to Liverpool's team is their midfield shape and who comes in. Spoke quite a few times on these streams how Liverpool really lack a holding midfielder of kind of that traditional, the Fabinho guy, the guy that's super dominant in midfield. They've lacked that for a bit. Obviously with Fabinho's form, if you remember the game last season, the 4-1 win for Man City, Liverpool were very, very, very poor in that defensive midfield area. So it'll be interesting. There's a few interesting positions that we need to talk about. Left back, of course, for Liverpool. No, Andy Robertson still out injured. He always plays quite well in these games against Manchester City. And then who comes into midfield? Is it Harvey Elliott? Or is it Ryan Gravenberch, who's been absolutely superb? Ryan Gravenberch is the player that Manchester United should have bought this summer for the number 8 position. It was blatantly obvious that he was the correct guy. But again, misfirings in the window. So let's dive into the tactical side. That's why we're here. So we've got at a moment, we've got City in their build-up structure. Their 3-2-5 structure with the rotations galore. Liverpool in their kind of 4-3-3. I think for Liverpool here, they almost need to think about those old school Liverpool performances in the Champions League before they became consistent. There's more those gegenpressing 4-3-3 performances where they're super aggressive in central midfield, they're squeezing you high up the pitch, and then they're being aggressive in the defensive transition. Too many times Liverpool got caught with Manchester City. It was Riyad Mahrez in the game behind the Liverpool midfield. I think one of the big ones that I'm kind of thinking of is that 4-1 win at Manchester City. This was a game where basically Klopp went for it. He went a little bit more 4-4-2. I think average positions. I'm pretty sure Liverpool played with 4 forwards in the game. Harvey Elliott wide right, just a double pivot in midfield. But the issue was the defensive transition. Time and time again, Liverpool would squeeze City in their kind of more 4-4-2 shape. Let's just pretend that Dominic Szoboszlai is high. They go man for man in midfield, and then City would find a way, as they do, with the goalkeeper to overload the shape. They find a passing combination that would work, and then they play through. The issue Liverpool had then was the big weakness for Trent. Again, I think Trent is a fantastic footballer. I think one of the weaknesses is when he's defending the far side. What I mean there is near side fullback, far side fullback. And I think the issue that Liverpool had in that game was not only, the bit of lack of awareness of Trent in terms of his positional sense at times, but also how open that they were. And at times they were defending with kind of 3 players, 3-on-3 on Man City is not what you want. The question, I think, for Jurgen Klopp is whether to go Tsimikas or try Joe Gomez. Because the Joe Gomez one is an interesting one. It would give Liverpool a little bit more defensive solidity. It would allow them an extra defender at the back. And Jurgen Klopp did try this against Luton Town. And it worked quite well, to be quite honest. It worked quite well for Jurgen Klopp. And I feel like with this kind of the way the game is going to kind of be, I feel like having a more defensively minded fullback in that position will allow Trent to invert a little bit more, allow Szoboszlai to play a little higher, to create that box in midfield, as Liverpool have been doing this season. And it will overload Manchester City in that central area. But it means that Joe Gomez will have to start against Phil Foden, which could be a really good battle. Dave, your analysis about Pellistri. He's going to be very good under Bielsa. I think he'll grow. I don't know whether he's a Man United player, but I think he'll grow. Matt Kay, can Maka, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch match the intensity of Henderson, Milner, Wijnaldum? No, but I think that's a big question that they've got to answer today. I do think Joe Gomez coming in is going to be big for them. I think that's a good tactical side for Pep Guardiola, because it naturally creates a back three for them. And the interesting side, obviously, City will defend kind of 4-4-2, as we know, off the ball. They'll squeeze high in the 4-4-2. And naturally what that means for Liverpool is you'll create issues for them. And I think one of the big things Liverpool need to do is work the ball from Alisson through the Manchester City press and get Trent on the ball in areas where he can look over the top. For Jota, for Salah, for Cody Gakpo on the left-hand side. That's where I'd see this really working for Liverpool. And we've got an example from the 4-1 defeat, actually, the opening goal of the game. And the big thing with Trent, just watch Trent. He's in a wide position now, so wide in build-up, and then he'll slightly move inside. This was the last game that Trent kind of played more as a traditional fullback, shall we say. From this point onwards, he's kind of been very much inverted. But the way that Liverpool draw the City press on is absolutely fantastic. The squeeze from City obviously comes from their two forwards, Riyad Mahrez and Alvarez in these positions. Haaland actually missed this game with injury, if you guys remember. But the big thing with this is how you can get through these City lines. So they're going to squeeze you high in central midfield. They're going to be super, super aggressive. What I like about Alisson here is he shapes to go long, and then he finds the pass in between the lines. Really good stuff. He's feinting to go long, draws the pressure, slides the ball through. When we talk about Trent is the hole in the shape. So when City do squeeze in these super high moments, Trent moving inside and tucking inside creates an issue where, you've got to deal with the likes of, you've got to squeeze that back line with your forwards. You're basically pressing 4-4-2. You've got space in central midfield. It's very difficult to pick up. So from a tactical perspective, when we're looking at this kind of shape, and obviously the two centre mids are going to deal with probably Gravenberch and McAllister, probably Szoboszlai that will push naturally up and build up. But getting the ball to Trent in a little areas where they could really get some joy, and they did against City in the 4-1 defeat. Again, wasn't frequent enough from an attacking sense, but the way that Trent can pass and spot the runs, saw that sort of movement from deep from Diogo Jota as well. Jota off the line, it causes more questions for the back line. Do they want to jump? Do they want to go? But Jota is very good at dropping and then spinning in behind. Got great quality there. Ball over the top from Trent. Again, no pressure on the ball. In fact, left back Akanji has had to jump and put pressure on the ball. Think that Trent could be in some really good areas for Liverpool in this match. Maybe sitting a little wider, you'd say, than usual. You usually expect him a little bit more narrow. So maybe starting a little wider, then tucking into this kind of slot. So he's in a position that's in a halfway house between the area that, behind Jack Grealish's blind side, away from central midfield and Ilkay Gundogan. Of course, that would be Bernardo Silva, but not close enough to, Nathan Ake to play over. But it's a great ball over the top, catches the high line out from Man City. Exactly what you want to do in behind the defence. Good hold-up play from Jota. Salah applies the finish. But you're catching City in a super awkward position where they're dropping back, they're defending. Matt Kay, wouldn't you play Darwin? Yes, absolutely would play Darwin. But Darwin's probably not going to play from the start because of the travelling and his performances for Uruguay over the international break. So I'd expect Jota. I would definitely play Darwin. But I kind of empathise with Jurgen Klopp. He's had a hell of a lot of 12-30s this season. But definitely one way to get at this Manchester City team using Trent inverted. I think the other option for City, I think one of the things that we look at here from a tactical perspective, Liverpool have gone over City's midfield and defence. I quite like the idea of just going over at times. I think when, we're looking at that build-up play out from the back that we just saw there, Alisson to Trent, go there, Joe Gomez holding. I think there's also positions where you basically want to, Liverpool want to be testing this City defensive line. They will squeeze super high up the pitch against you. And I think one of the things that Liverpool need to do is look to play the second ball. And that's why I spoke about that kind of old school Liverpool midfield. McAllister, Gravenberch, Szoboszlai, playing as those central midfielders that win the second ball. Because Chelsea showed last week, if you play long, if you win that second ball, you can create chances because the defensive transition from City wasn't as good as it could have been. There was players high up the pitch. It was difficult for them, because they squeeze so high with their kind of 4-4-2 shape. It's difficult for them to get back. So what you actually find at times against City is you're actually attacking, 5 players. And you can create overloads in these zones. And we saw Chelsea do that. The big thing with the overload would actually be Trent being a little bit more traditional. So if these moments go where there is a long ball up to, let's say, Jota and Liverpool are winning the second ball with Gravenberch and Szoboszlai, Salah carrying, the overlap needs to come from Trent. We saw Reece James and Cole Palmer really combine well in this manner in the recent Prem game. So ball comes out the back from Sanchez, goes long. Won by Kyle Walker, the aerial duel. But the way that Chelsea squeezed the play through Enzo Fernandez, again, this is an absolute trait of what Jurgen Klopp's teams used to do in central midfield. Play that long ball, win the second ball. You're in a real bad situation there for Manchester City. As we mentioned, you've got the back 4. Obviously, Diaz has tried to put pressure on the ball, but you've got the back 4, or the 4 defenders making a back 3 and then a double pivot, and Rodri. And that's what you're attacking. So it creates these moments where if a defender, a la Trent Alexander-Arnold, joins the attack on the outside at times, or alternatively, it actually could come from Szoboszlai, playing as that kind of Matt Zala in a sense of, when the ball's been played, it's gone long, we've won the second ball, it's been threaded out wide to Salah, it's Szoboszlai making that move on the overlap. I think that could really isolate City's fullback. Obviously, it could be Trent, but maybe if we are playing more of a control role from Trent, Szoboszlai is that guy that's going to come on the overlap and the advantage. And we saw it with Reece James. Really good run on the outside. Little through ball. Breaks to Reece James. He cuts across. Little touch, ball across to Sterling. Attack the back post. Of course, you've got to do that against Manchester City. Liverpool do it very, very well, so we don't need to really discuss it so much. But again, wingers attacking the back post. Very, very important. This could also be, Cody Gakpo through the middle, Jota from that wide area, which again would work well. Ball forward, win the second ball, low cross into the box, Liverpool score. I feel that's like an angle where they can catch City out, that kind of overlap in the fullback. One of the things that Liverpool need to not do is create those moments where they get played through too easily, as we kind of spoke about that. Already big disorganisation in the 4-1 defeat. They can't allow City to get into the final third and switch. We mentioned it before. If Liverpool's shape isn't good enough in a defensive sense and City can, take out those, kind of the front 5, you'd say, if they can take out these players with their possession players, they do. Obviously, from a simple mathematics perspective, Ederson joins this. So it's actually, you're overloaded even more. From a goalkeeper perspective, you want to shuttle out and press the keeper. So it's probably really important for Liverpool to arguably defend in a bit of a diamond. That classic Liverpool structure where the outside midfielders go out and do the work. Because if you stop City playing out from back, you've got great advantages to attack them. Obviously, their build-up structure will change. Kanji will move in. It'll be like a back 4. It'll be like a back 6. The issue is you've got to stop them getting through to these types of situations when you've worked and played through, because we mentioned before that overload on the other side, Trent Alexander-Arnold not being a great defender on the back post is a problem, and City completely cut through Liverpool in different moments. You can see that build-up, that 3-2 structure. Liverpool played 4-4-2 in this game. It was it was Salah and Gakpo as a 2 up front, Harvey Elliott as a right back. You can already see Trent, again, seen the problem already straight away. City simply play through. It's a real half-arse. It's very un-Jurgen Klopp performance, this one, from Liverpool. Too slow, easily worked out, no pressure on the ball. First time, Robertson jumps far too late. Mahrez is in acres of space, and now you got a 4v3, basically game set match. You're done. City are one of the best teams in the world at scoring from these positions. It's simple. You cut inside, you play through midfield, you work the overload on the other side, and then you work a low cross. But that's where obviously Trent's been drawn in here. He has to naturally tuck. And the solution that I gave you before for Liverpool is having, Joe Gomez being far more defensive and not playing Tsimikas, playing Joe Gomez as a fullback so you don't get caught out, and leaving it to Ryan Gravenberch to be the one that's going to shuttle over and deal with the forward. Versus we saw Andy Robertson jump. You want Joe Gomez to hold, sit back, and then work it that way. Because City are very, very good in these positions. They've narrowed up that back three they've played through. If, from a position now, we've got, instead of the jump from Robertson, we've got Joe Gomez tucked. You've got much better horizontal coverage. So you've also got a 4v4. You'd hope that you'd had a defensive midfielder in there as well at some point. But it would be a way to kind of stop these types of goals. A defensive midfielder there would, if, for example, Fabinho's in a better position here, or he's actually working back, you should be able to stop that simple pass across the midfield. And that's, that kind of opens up everything. Brilliant from Gundogan as well. What a player. Gundogan. God. Weren't we lucky to see him in the Premier League for so long? But very interesting. That's kind of my take. I think start Joe Gomez for Liverpool. I think playing this kind of more defensive diamond, coverage from the outside midfielders out wide, squeezing high, gegenpressing style, playing an extra fullback, playing through the lines, but also looking long at times, winning that second ball, overlapping in the final third. Obviously, for Manchester City, it is creating 1v1s out wide. We've not even spoke about Jeremy Doku, and his quality this season has been absolutely up there. And when we look at some of his numbers, he's absolutely lighting up the Premier League. 60 million euros seems like a great deal for Jeremy Doku, and he could play this game. And arguably, this type of player is Trent Alexander-Arnold's biggest weakness: an agile, explosive, tricky winger that can take you on outside, go on the inside. We're looking at just the raw statistics: 31 dribbles in the Premier League. Only Mateusz Cunha and Eze of Crystal Palace have completed more. Only 6 players in Europe have got more dribbles than Doku. He's averaging 5 dribbles per 90. Again, excels in these 1v1 situations. So that's the big thing in a defensive sense. As soon as the play's been, you've got to be getting over, got to be getting aggressive from that midfield side. It'll be quite big for Diogo Jota, whoever plays as a nominal left winger, to really make an effort to get back and tuck. Same with Mohamed Salah. Can't allow a 1v1. I think the big thing, Trent always gets pointed out as the guy, Trent's terrible at football, blah, 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 blah. But defending is a responsibility of the masses, of the collective. And I feel like Liverpool can't afford to let Trent be 1v1 with either Doku or Jack Grealish. Both players would be equally as good in those moments, but I'd love to see Doku there. His numbers this season have been good. 4 assists in a single game against Bournemouth. That was one of the most electric Premier League performances we saw in City's 6-1 win 2 games ago. Doku, the perfect 10. 1 goal, 4 assists, 5 chances created, completed 95% of his passes, 3 shots, 5 out of 5 dribbles completed. This kid is electric. I can't wait to see him more in the Premier League. He's the X factor. I think if Pep's bold and he goes with him versus his kind of big game team of Jack Grealish, I think that'll catch Liverpool out. Alternatively, though, start Grealish, bring him on at the end of the game. Either way would probably work quite well. Guys, what do you think of the match? Let me know in the comments your score predictions for this game. I genuinely think it could be quite an open one again. Oh, fingers crossed it's an open one. We want a great entertainment game, because I tell you what, one of the best games in recent years with that 4-4 draw was so good. Chelsea, Man City, Pochettino was... I do like Poch. I do think about Poch a lot. I really do. There was a time where United should have got Poch. They really should have done. And they didn't do it. And I believe Poch would have been very, very good for Manchester United. Don't take rubbish, which is super important. Mahad's going to go 4-1 to City. Carl in the chat, I think City will win this 3-2. I've actually got my eye on a 3-2 scoreline. Not sure which way, but 3-2. I'll probably go 3-2 City. Tom's going to go 2-2. Josh is going to go 3-1 to City. Sack in the chat's going to go for a 2-2 draw. I think it'll be 2-2 or 3-2. Hoping for an absolute classic of a game. The big thing for Liverpool, of course, Mohamed Salah is absolutely flying this season. Playing a slightly more creative, wider role in their setup. Plays more of an inverted winger versus that classic inside forward that we've come to love from Salah. But making things happen still. His form has been absolutely outstanding. Goals, assists, goals. This season he's been absolutely flying, but slightly more creative. So a different kind of element for City to deal with. You could consider him on the counter. We spoke a lot about Jeremy Doku on the counter-attack. Salah versus Gvardiol is a very good... I think that's an advantageous for Liverpool. You're thinking about the Lionel Messi, Gvardiol situation at the World Cup. But the way that Salah could receive wide and then take him on could be a big advantage in the counter-attack. Nikos dribbled around. Wonder how accurate these stats are. Depends who you have around you. Yeah, it's always quite subjective, those statistics, because what is actually being dribbled around? Is it the whole man, the whole ball? Is it beating someone with a little feint and a shimmy and then going? Yeah, there's a lot of intricacies of it in there. Ewan, I think the early kickoff will mean it'll be low scoring, so don't tend to deliver 1-1. Ewan, come on. We need them to deliver. We really do. Arsenal went over the top against City. Liverpool got to do the same from Matt Kay. That's a really good shout. I really think taking that midfield out and then going to have someone like Salah running at their back four could be good. Great score predictions. Great chat as always, guys. Let's move on to another little discussion. The next Premier League game we're going to talk about before finishing at Man United is Tottenham Hotspur versus Villa. Two of the most entertaining teams in the league. Guys, whatever you're doing, on Sunday at 2 o'clock, make sure you got the game on. This one could be very, very good. It is on Sky as well. Sensational. Tottenham are, of course, without Mickey van der Ven and Christian Romero still, which for me opens up a humongous problem for them on the counter-attack. I called it. Sometimes we've got to bang our own drum in this world. And, we made a video saying Spurs were set for a bad run of form on YouTube. And I tell you what, since we made that video, they've gone on to lose 2 out of 2 Premier League games. And just to show you that we did do this, I'm not making this up. I'm losing it, aren't I, guys? I am really losing it. Oh, crazy times. But yeah, we got it bang over here. It's the game. Our Spurs set for a bad run of form. This was 2 games ago. We're still in the game, guys. We are still in the game. But I think the main issue here was the channels and the counter-attack. And I think Wolves did that quite well. Obviously, the Chelsea game was a little bit different. The red cards obviously changed it, but Wolverhampton Wanderers very much a lot of those counter-attacking moments for Wolves in there. You look at the statistics. Wolves created 2.15 expected goals. They technically battered them on the break. They really did. They didn't even have a little Pedro Neto either. Obviously, he's a big star of this channel. One of my favourite Premier League players. Please, one prayer for this year. For New Year, please let Pedro Neto have an injury-free season. Such a joy to watch. But same thing happened there in terms of the catching into the channels. The issue I think Spurs have got in this game is, I would say, one of Aston Villa's biggest strengths is their ability to attack the channels. When you look at Villa and their setup, it is more of a 4-4-2 structure. And what you get is both Diaby and Ollie Watkins super high. You can see number 19 there, how high he is in the channel. Ollie Watkins also hits the channel and attacks it well. One of the things I was listening to this week was Unai Emery chatting about Watkins and improving him. He was saying that he was going too wide and he wasn't affecting the play properly. But I think for this game, he'll have the perfect kind of, makeup of attacking the channels and having the right kind of components in there for it. And I think the big thing for this match is going to be the kind of the mid block, you'd say, in there. The mid block in terms of looking at one key tactical thing for this game, it's kind of dealing with those channels. And Brighton, obviously one of the best possession teams in the Premier League this season, struggled to break down Villa's 4-4-2 mid-block. We've also done a video on the main channel on Villa's structure, shape this season. Go and check that one out. Very, very interesting. We look at their attacking structure, defensive structure, how they play, why they've been so good this season. Definitely go and have a look at that. But in terms of kind of the structure, Spurs will build in a reasonably similar way. We could see the kind of 2, almost 3 structure that Brighton are building with. That is Spurs. Obviously, Spurs do it with both their fullbacks tucking inside and having their centre-backs. The issue that Spurs have got is that they no longer have Mickey van der Ven at left centre-back and Christian Mero at right centre-back, who are unbelievably quick, great in the channels, great in the duels, work really well, because Villa's setup is very, very good. Man-to-man in certain respects, but kind of zonal 4-4-2 in other respects. Obviously, near side here, we can see the ball side, the shadowing from Ollie Watkins, but it forces Brighton into a mistake. So, there's a jump from, I can't remember who that is, Zaniolo onto Billy Gill, Joel Veltman, I think that is, force him into a back pass straight into the channels. This is the situation that I feel Spurs will get caught out. Villa winning the ball or forcing an error, winning it in this situation, then Watkins hitting the channel, Diaby hitting the channel, causing problems. Obviously, with this finish, it's absolutely sensational from Watkins. Comes inside, finishes back across the goalkeeper. Sensational goal. That is the issue. That is the tactical talking point that you could take to the pub and tell your mates about. That is the one thing Spurs will get done in the channels by Aston Villa. Get into the chat, your score predictions for this game, Tottenham versus Aston Villa. I do think there's a great strength about Villa. Potentially could see Yuri Tielemans play in midfield. Could go the real 4-man Unai Emery midfield action. I do think Spurs will score. I think this will be a high-scoring game. But I just think Ollie Watkins, Diaby, and those channels are going to be really good. Matt, are you a Fuego de Possession guy, relational? I'll tell you what, Matt, I'm definitely more positional, I would say. But I do like some really good... I like some of the concepts of relational. But I definitely would say more positional at the moment. But I think we all change. I think the best would be a combination of both. Having the ability to switch between the two styles would be kind of where you'd want to go eventually. You think a lot about how City play in certain zones. You can take some relational things from that, but also they play a really good positional game. There's other sides, obviously. You look at Erik ten Hag's Ajax. There were positional and relational parts of that. It's just super interesting, Matt. But no, I'm definitely positional. Wingers stay wide, attack that half space. I think it's a more dominant strategy, as I'd say, Matt. I think it's still at the top. But relational will develop, which is so super exciting. Relational sort of managers will start to real pop up in the Premier League. Even like the likes of Xabi Alonso is a combination of relational and positional in terms of his structure and style. So we'll probably do a video on that very, very soon. In there. Score predictions coming in. Mahad's going to go for 2-2. Ewan is going to go 4-2 Villa. Josh 4-2 Villa as well. Saki in the chat's going to go 3-0 to Villa. In there. I think these are two great coaches. Honestly, I've loved both of these teams. These are my two favourite teams in the Premier League. These two. It's going to be a bloody classic. I can't wait. I really can't wait. Lots of injuries, obviously, for Spurs at the moment. Hence why I've given Villa the advantage. I'd love to see these two teams play each other with kind of full strength sides. That would be absolutely sick. Carl's going to go 3-1 to Villa. Injuries will kill Tottenham. Radu's going to go for a 1-1. Interesting. Radu, even if he's positional in his approach in build-up, is that Eric? His minimum width is relational, I guess. Yeah, it's... I don't know what... Honestly, Manchester United, they aren't either. That's the worry. They're not very good positionally and they're not very good relationally. Crazy times. Oh, come on, just please be good. It's so frustrating talking about them being rubbish. I'm sick of it. You guys are sick of it. So, let's move on, Manchester United. Craig in the chat, 3-1 to Villa. Nice, good scorelines. Right, let's move on to the last game we're going to talk about today. That is Man United versus Everton. Last game of the Premier League Sunday. Everton, of course, as we mentioned previously, that -10 points. The perfect time to play a team that's just taken a big hit. This is going to be super, super tough for Manchester United. It really is. Everton are going to have the bit between their teeth. They really are. Tom is going to go 3-1 to Villa. Watkins brace as well. Matt is saying Thomas Frank and Inzaghi are so underrated from a relational perspective. You know, the thing with Inzaghi is you could say he's also a bit of a mix. Because like what I find interesting is like there is massive trends between both of the ideas. There really is. Like there's big trends between relational and positional. Like for example, when you look at Fluminense, right? When Fluminense look their best, they'll have 2 wingers wide and they'll have 2 strikers in the middle. And the fullbacks will come inside. They build in like similar structures. It's interesting. Thomas Frank as relational is quite interesting. I never even thought really what Thomas Frank is as a manager. Like pragmatism is a big part of what they do. Well, I'm gonna have to have a think about that, Matt. I'll have a think about that, and we'll chat about that next week. LJ in the chat, hey Dave, in regards to Arsenal, it's obvious we need a left central midfield in January. Do you watch the Championship much? If so, what are your thoughts on Charlie Patino? Don't watch it enough, to be honest, but we'll have a little look, see if whether he's a solution to their problems. I think Arsenal do need a Xhaka replacement. They really do. I think there's a side that we really need to see it grow. Make a video, yeah, definitely. Definitely need to make a video. 3-3, Leon Bailey hat-trick. Love that, AJ. Love that. Ewan, do you think Ten Hag's touchline ban affects anything? I would say it... I'd say it does, from a sense of it will be a different dynamic for Manchester United. Who's there making the calls on the touchline? It could give them a little bit more freedom. Could give them slightly more freedom in terms of what they're doing. United, obviously, this season, horrendous injury record. United have lost Christian Eriksen. Højlund is unlikely to start the game against Everton. Andre Onana should be back. And Andre Onana, we've got to give a bit of a shout out to. Andre Onana this season has been absolutely, people have battered him. And deservedly for the first few performances. But when we do look at the goalkeeping statistics, there's still saves when I look at Andre and I say, Andre, that should be a simple save and you've made a meal of that. I'm thinking that Haaland double save that he made in the derby. But we're looking at the stats overall for him this season. Andre Onana is doing well. So save percentages, Andre Onana is ranked 3rd in the Premier League behind Alisson and Vicario. He's saved 76.7% of the shots he's faced. They are decent numbers. And then when you look at the post-shot expected goals numbers, again, another really good way of analysing a goalkeeper and goalkeeping performance in terms of the plus-minuses this season. Andre Onana is ranked 8th in the Premier League, where he saved Manchester United versus the shots that he's faced, an extra 1.8 goals. These are like good numbers. He's turned a corner. And I tell you what, it's great to see. I love Andre. I really do. And look, there will be an occasional clanger, but we're going in the right direction. We're trending in the right direction. So big shout out to Andre. I love that attitude. You've come in, you've struggled, and you've turned your form around. We can see that in the kind of recent games for Manchester United. Superb against Luton, made some big saves in that match. It was arguably United's best player against City in the derby. Superb against Copenhagen at home, really good against Sheffield United. Obviously there were some bad games in between. Galatasaray, Bayern Munich away was another one that wasn't great. Arsenal away from home. But there's been a turn. We're moving. We're good. We're good, guys. Everything's going to be all right. Matt, thoughts on Wan-Bissaka? Great form. Best defensive fullback. Deserves a new contract. Does he deserve a new contract? For me, no. I think United need to be more, a possession-heavy team. Wan-Bissaka doesn't really fit in that in the long term. I like Wan-Bissaka off the ball. In Ten Hag's systems, I think he's learned a lot off the ball, which I think is credit to him as a player. I just never think he's going to be a player that you can play both in a defensive position and an offensive position in possession. I feel like you have to play him in an attacking position, which obviously causes, slight issues to your shape. But, right now, would I play Wan-Bissaka every day of the week? Yes, if he's fit. In terms of the the back four in terms of what United could do, you know, in the long term. Let's just throw Mason Mount into defensive midfield because that's probably the vibes we're going to get this week. Oh, no. But in terms of Wan-Bissaka, I think he's very, very good. I spoke about this a few times, making those runs. He's really active in that. Like, I really like him in that position. He's got that down. He really does. He's got that down, in my opinion. He's got that ability to make those runs, stretch the play, underlap the winger. And he's got that down. What I think he's not got down is either playing in midfield, so either playing as an inverted wing-back or playing as an inverted full-back, you know, as a third centre-half. I think he's not got that down. You know, we've seen times this season. Wolves, great example. Squeeze United down the right-hand side. They struggle with Raphael Varane and Aaron Wan-Bissaka. So, long-term, I would sell him. And I would sign someone like a Scalvini. I've just seen it in the chat. I absolutely love Scalvini. I think he's absolutely brilliant. Yeah, but I'd buy a more ball-playing centre-half that's more... full-back that's more attacking, that can play those three positions. Inverted full-back, inverted wing-back, and then kind of an inverted attacker. Or inside tacker. That's what I'd want. But Wan-Bissaka's very good in that position. I just think the rest of it needs a bit of work. Can he get there? Maybe. But you're probably looking at, you know, selling him and buying someone else. Convert him to a centre-back. I don't, again, the same issue comes, I think, if you play him as a centre-half, is the ball playing. I think that's the issue. Debas, look, Mahad, one day we'll get what we want in this world. One day we will get what we want. Debas is someone that we spoke about a lot last season. I've not actually kind of dived into his stats this year, but again, he's a player that I think has got great quality. Really funny when I made that video and I got absolutely hounded for being like, Man United are selling 13 players. That should never happen. Then we look at this season and we think, yeah, Man United probably should have sold all of those players. Funny times. Dino Zimas. Let's take a little look at him. This is Zeno. Met him before. Good ball playing centre half. What was he averaging this season? Pass accuracy 83% could be improved, but 92% his own half. You've also got to look at kind of that ability. The one weakness he's got, the one thing he needs to improve. Like, this guy is quality ball player. The one thing he has to improve is in the air. Hence why if Man United were to buy him, he would 100% have to play fullback. But he reminds me a lot of Sven Botman. He reminds me of Sven Botman at Lille, but maybe like less dominant in the air. Really good with the ground duels. Just needs to work on that ability in the air. That's it. There's the one weakness he's got. But I would take that for his quality on the ball, and you could grow that long term. You really could. He's super dominant, and see how he's kind of like moves to that right back area in possession. He'd be a superb outside defender. He really would be. 8 out of his 15 long balls completed in this game. Quite direct, it looks like, Anderlecht this season. But yeah, superb footballer. Great footballer, could be good. What about Tap Sober? Great player. Although I did watch Leverkusen just before the international break. It was an absolute joy. So the teams I'd say watch this season: Tottenham Hotspur, Villa, Leverkusen. Absolute fours of the Europa League. They were great against Union Berlin. Scored a goal on the counter-attack. Scored a goal through pressing. Scored 2 goals from set pieces. Grimaldo scored an absolute banger. Definitely go and have a look at that. A player available on a free transfer over the summer that is a natural left attacker. There was so many tap-ins. So many. Anyway, my point was, obviously, Tap Sober didn't play this game. Kosunu, I think is the correct pronunciation for this guy. Brilliant. Very, very good. I thought he played very, very well in this match. Scored, but really good on the ball. Jonathan Tah was also really good. Both players are take at United. Jonathan Tah's always had massive potential, really showing it for Xabi Alonso's side. Super ball heavy, ball dominated. Really, really nice. But yeah, definitely Tap Sober and that. But yeah, we've kind of gone on a massive tangent, which is kind of what happens sometimes. But back to the actual United game. I think United really need to utilise the inside right channel. They exposed Everton last season in the Inside Right channel. And I think Scott McTominay, again, this game sounds absolutely crazy. If I'm going to frame it like this to you. So, Scott McTominay or Aaron Wan-Bissaka making those inside runs. Mason Mount as a sole holding defensive midfielder. Look, let's go possession FC. Let's absolutely go for it in there. But the big thing, I think, is stretching the play with width. And then finding those little pockets in the box, especially the underlaps from the right-hand side. United caught Everton out last season really well. It was a really nice pass from Jadon Sancho, actually, that slid through Scott McTominay to finish. But I think like those underlap moves on the right-hand side especially really catch Everton out. So I think having both Wan-Bissaka and Scott McTominay attack that would be really, really good. So just in terms of a bit of a reference point for you wonderful people, let's jump back into this. So United's 2-0 win over Everton at Old Trafford last season. They utilised the underlap really, really well. Again, building down the left-hand side. Good play from United, drawing the press over. Little dropping off the line play from Marcus Rashford centre forward. Good switch, driving forward. But I think the big thing is kind of, you will see in a sec, Everton are really well set. But I think one of the big things is kind of using the width and then hitting that underlap. We can see the width now. Just see how Scott McTominay runs off Onana. So one of the things we spoke about before, Onana needs to work, positionally needs to work. He also needs to track better because he doesn't track well at all. I feel like this is an area where you can catch Everton out in central midfield, running off James Garner, running off Onana into these types of positions. Really good ball from Jadon Sancho, one of his best passes at Manchester United, and a good finish from McTominay. But I feel like it's an area. So when you get to the final third, real patience in those areas, then looking for the through ball, underlap, right-hand side goal. Similar on the left-hand side, could do a similar type of thing, but I really feel like you can catch natural 4-4-2s out with these underlaps. It's classic Pep Guardiola, that type of goal. And a great goal United scored. But I do think that's how you get to Everton. Everton, of course, have created a lot of chances this season. They're going to be good on the counter-attack with McNeil, with Harrison. Decore's always got a good, an eye for a goal against Manchester United, which is a little bit of a worry. But containing them in those areas. Set pieces, obviously big for them. I do think those underlaps, so from inside that shape, you can see the compact 4-4-2, making the runs from the inside channels up from both the left-hand side and the right-hand side for Manchester United, is how to unlock the door. Hence why I'd quite like to see Anthony maybe start this game on the right wing to utilise that pass on the left foot. And then, either Rashford or Alejandro Garnacho on that side, or even Marcus Rashford as the 9. Probably go with this team, to be fair. Rashford as the 9, Garnacho left, Anthony right. Do you think Anthony will reach his potential? No. Unfortunately, don't. I think his personality is a problem. Really do. Did you see the centre-back United got linked to? Amora Sangate? No, I've not actually seen it. I'll have a little look, man, for next week. Josh, it'd be interesting to see how Maguire plays against Everton. I think Maguire's been very good recently. He's done his job very well. Is he the long-term guy? Probably not. Will he eventually kind of, be moved on? Yeah, probably, but he's been good recently. Can't really deny that, to be fair. But yeah, anyway, guys, get your score predictions in for this last game. Everton versus Manchester United in the Premier League. It's been a good old stream. We've been rocking for over an hour and 8 minutes. But let me know. Big game for Man United, big game for Everton as well after the points deduction. They're going to want to win this. Carl in the chat, Everton 0, Manchester United 1. Tight win for us, another clean sheet. Carl, you know what? I don't disagree with that. I really don't. You look at Man United's form in the last few games, it's been very mixed. But just in the Premier League, in this tournament, 1-0 against Fulham, 1-0 against Luton. We've not won a game this season by more than one goal. What is life? Like, seriously. What's happened? Gone are the days. We'll do fantasy football now, Radu. Let me just quickly switch the screens. We'll just chat fantasy football again. I love fantasy football. You guys need to be more on it, being like, let's talk fantasy football, because again, it's your stream as much as my stream, guys. Fantasy football preview. So last week, 92 whopping points. Haaland's performance, 32 points. Salah with a 16. We got an assist from Saka. Tsimikas, Saliba, really holding it together. We've made some changes. Matoma, He was back in training now. Midweek was going to miss training. But I had my eye on 2 players. Bryan Mbeumo and Reece James. I'm ready to be hurt. All right, guys, I am ready to be hurt by Reece James. But I thought his performance against Manchester City, offensively and defensively, was really, really good. I thought he played very, very well. I'm trying to get on the hype train before it goes. Only 4.4% ownership. I think he's got a good chance of getting an attacking return in each of the next 3 games. I think Newcastle look open, especially from that fullback position. I think Brighton look very, very open, and Manchester United this season. But then you look at the next run after that, you've got some good fixtures. The one concern is whether Reece James gets rotated against Man United. But in that fixture, I believe I've got a defender off the bench. Obviously, I think Tsimikas will probably come in for that game against Sheffield United away. So, that we're all right there in a sense. Tsimikas can come in and cover for Reece James if I don't think he'll play. But that's what we've gone. Double transfer, -4. We've taken a hit this week just to get Mbeumo and James in. Basically, the issue was that Mbeumo's gone up. He's not gone up yet. This is annoying. The algorithms I was looking at were saying that he'd be gone up weeks ago, but we've just got it in terms of the price for both players. So we're like on a 0. So it's definitely something to consider. And Mbeumo this week, it will go up in value. Do you think James will stay fit? Where's some wood, Ewan? Touch the door. Yes, I think he'll be fine. No, I really hope he does. Same with Pedro Neto. I just want to see Reece James fit for a season from a footballing perspective, but also from a fantasy football perspective. I just think it's time, Ewan. I really think it's time to go. Sell Varane, too injury prone? Yeah, absolutely. That's something we didn't even speak about, but Raphael Varane, in terms of the statistics for games played, he's missed, in Erik ten Hag's 80 games in charge of Man United, he's missed 19 games through injury. So he's missed a quarter of games under Erik ten Hag. Martinelli this week? Yes, I think Martinelli's a good shout. He looks in good form. Good differential on Saka. He's also cheaper than Saka, so you can get some value out of him. I like him. I like that, Matt. But look at him. Mbeumo's about to go in a really good run of form. You got Luton, Brighton next, Sheffield United, Villa, but then you got a blank obviously in 18. So you got a plan for 18, but I think that's a really nice fixture run for Mbeumo. So I definitely consider getting him in as well. Captain pick, Haaland or Salah. I at the moment have Haaland. The thing with Salah is he's always, in the last few games. Let me have a look at the statistics. Something crazy, like in the last few games, he's like scored or assisted. What we got here? Yeah, so it's pretty crazy actually. Let's make that a little bit bigger so you guys can see. So in the Premier League, this is Mohamed Salah's record versus Man City. So he's been directly involved in 16 goals in the last 19 games. But if we look at the recent games, he's got 5 goals and 2 assists in his last 6 games. So he's got 7 in 6. And you remember that against Liverpool, Haaland's missed something like 4 big chances in his last 3 games. It was really tough. Really tough. Ewan and Mbeumo costs too much as well as James. Cash and Diaby would be the 2 I'd be looking to move on. Yeah, I think it's definitely time to get rid of Cash and Diaby. Have you got Carl Palmer, Ewan? I think Carl Palmer is a great asset. I didn't believe it at the start, but I've had to eat my words, and now I've gone with Palmer in my team. So Watkins as captain, Tom, would be a really good shout. It's just the value you're going to get out of it, because you're obviously going to get his points anyway. It's just if Haaland or Salah pops off, you could easily, Haaland is in great form right now. He really is. The only thing is obviously that injury that he's picked up, but Guardiola keeps talking about it being a muscle thing that's sorted now. Didn't play for Norway in the final. Look at that run in the Premier League what's that? 6 goals in the last 4 games and 2 assists. Like, in the last 3 Prem as well, like, very good. 4 goals and 2 assists in the last 3 games. 2 goal involvements per game against Man United and Chelsea. I think it's tough. Ewan, the amount of times I've lost to Captain Salah in Division 2, Ewan, you got to stick in there, buddy. I'm doing pretty good in head-to-head this season, but it's kind of like a little look. There is plans as well. There might be something on the horizon, fantasy football-wise, where hopefully be able to give back to the community some really good prizes. So stay tuned to that. We may be setting ourselves up a little fantasy football league, which will be good. But head-to-head, rocking at the moment. 3rd in the league, behind Spencer Owen. And, of course, Ian Dennis, the commentator on 5 Live. We are flying. Drew last week, but not important. No, got Gordon. So don't want to have 2 cheap mids. Yeah, that's a big thing. It's kind of super tough at times. I've got your team in it. Here you go, you and your team here. So Diaby is the option. So in terms of so at that price point, what we're looking at, let's go up to statistics. Let's quickly change it to this season. Any other questions on fantasy football, guys? Get into the chat. Let me know if you want me to talk about any other players or you have any problems in your fantasy team. So let's go midfielders, and then let's put how much money have you got, Ewan? 6.7 up to 7. Go another. I love that. That'll be a promotion. Would be amazing. I hope you get up. I'll have to talk about it in the next pod. Jackson definitely. The similar thing about Jackson to Reece James and Palmer, that like long term will be a really good shout. Be really, really good. In there, yeah. Ewan, how much have you got in terms of cash? Radu, going to go with Areola, Cash, Saliba, Anderson, Son, Salah, Adingara, Gordon, Haaland, Watkins, Ferguson. Definitely get rid of Maddison. I think he's out for quite a while. Radu, so maybe boost up that midfield area. Palmer for Maddison. I'd say the big thing with Palmer maybe is not having the 2 cheap mids, but you've got 2 cheap mids anyway at the moment, so then you'd have 3 cheap mids. I'd probably look at maybe Maddison keeping someone of certain value. Is Diaby what's Diaby's value exactly? Is it like 6.8? Have you got 6.8 on him? So let's go up to 7. Expected. Let's go fantasy points. So Burmo number 1, Diaby number 2. Sterling. What's Sterling right now in terms of price? Sterling would be a shout again for that same run. But if you've got Palmer and Sterling, I probably think that's a little overkill. In there, Ward-Prowse is not too bad. Move for Watkins early on. So that's definitely not a bad thing to get rid of it. It's a really tough price point. Pardon me. Decore would be an absolute alternative. Eze, Ewan. Go Eze. Eze's got a pretty decent little run of fixtures coming up. Let's jump on to... I'm pretty sure Eze's got like some good fixtures. Log in. Matt, any questions? So do we do yours? Jackson. Jackson's a good shout. I do like that. Bowen's apparently injured as well this week. Let's look at this other thing. Let's look at the points predictions as well with a max value of 7 mil for midfielders. So to be fair to sticking with Diaby is that he's still the top player of that price point in terms of expected points. Pascal Gross is there, would be a really good little differential on set pieces. He's going to play. Sterling. I think they might have Eze's minutes down. That's why he's not on this list. Or is Eze's not more than this, is he? Yeah, they've definitely got his minutes down. But it's not... Eze's got like quite a nice run coming up. Luton, West Ham, Bournemouth, and then it's hard. So you could get Eze for 3 games, but then you'd have to get him out. Work colleague knows Eze, has been in Palace box watching him. Other defenders he'd recommend instead of Cash. Radu, the number one defender that I really would recommend is definitely James. But again, doesn't come very favourable on this because of his injuries. But yeah, definitely go James. It's the fixtures are coming up are good. I like these fixtures. Like Brighton are really leaky this season. Same with Manchester United, Everton, Sheffield United, Wolves. They're all games. The Newcastle game's a tough one, but I back him to get a return on that as well. I really do. So I'd go with Reece. I really believe Reece James. He's in my team. But just looking at the team stats, just to show you the defensive stuff. So Chelsea have got the 4th best record in the league in terms of expected goals conceded. And if you look at that's without Reece James. So they are defending well as a team. They're building with this 3 and so forth. So they should have had more clean sheets than they've actually got. They've got 3.82 expected clean sheets, only on 3 clean sheets. Whereas the flip side, obviously, we've got the likes of playing Sheffield United and stuff, and Brighton have just conceded a lot of goals this season. Only Luton, West Ham, Bournemouth, Burnley and Sheffield United have conceded more. So definitely have a look at that. And I'm doing well, thank you. How are you? Radu, Villa have got City, Arsenal. Yeah, I definitely would get rid of my Villa defenders 100% and go for Reece James. Matt K. Odegaard. Odegaard's always a good shout. The injuries is the only thing I'd say is the issue at the moment. I think for Arsenal players, you're looking at Saka, Martinelli above Odegaard at the moment just because of the injuries. I'd definitely go Martinelli. If you're considering bringing any Arsenal mid in right now, be Martinelli over those guys. But that's a little fantasy football chat. Any more last little questions you guys have got? Our team this week, I think we are going to go Haaland captain. Reece James differential. Reece James is going to win me the lot. Win me the lot. You're welcome, Radu. We'll do a fantasy section on each episode till the end of the season. So definitely just come and ask your fantasy questions, and we'll either do it at the start, in the middle, or at the end. We'll do it at some point. I hope that helps everybody. Big GGs. Thanks for everyone stopping by. Good. Martinelli over Sterling. That's a good one. That is a real good one. Sterling's points prediction is 20.7. I don't massively like Sterling as a asset. I think Martinelli would be more consistent, but Sterling's got the haul potential. So it's kind of, do you want the consistency? Like, it's the same thing, Maddison versus Son. Maddison, super consistent. Son will score goals, you know what I mean? Son will just bag goals in one-off games. Similar thing with Sterling, will get points hauls, but I think Martinelli will be more consistent. Lovely stuff, Ewan. Yeah, definitely work from home on Friday more often. Tell your boss that it's a requirement these days. You just have to. You got a delivery every Friday for the rest of the time. GG's in the chat for everyone. Tweet me if you've got any more fantasy questions. I'll try and get back to you. Have a great weekend. Football's going to be great. Please, Manchester United just win. I'm losing hair because of these man dem. Big GG's. Matt, definitely if you've not got Palmer, get Palmer in. Should I remove Saka? No, keep Saka. Keep Saka for the long term. Very consistent player. But yeah, we'll catch you real soon. Subscribe if you're new. Share the video if you want to tell your pals about the fantasy football advice.